23rd. Roll call.
Aldermans Madden.
Here.
Kubaki.
Here.
Engelhardt.
Here.
Kapusta.
Here.
Terrence.
Here.
Hamel. And Wolf.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Statement of public notice.
This meeting was noticed in accordance with the open meeting law.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda in front of you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda's approved. Approval of the minutes from October 12th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes. New business, discussion regarding former police department building. So as you're all aware, I think the last time we talked about that building was right before I came in office, a couple weeks before that. Since then, I've been approached by both the Lions Club and the Women's Club and been questioned on it probably, if not bi-weekly, at least monthly by people like, what's our plans for this thing? Scott and his department have had discussions internally and things that they could possibly do with it. I don't know if Scott wants to talk about some of it. A lot of it has, most of it, almost all of it has to do with recreation programming. That would be, one direction we can go. Different groups have talked about possible community center on it. I know you guys have talked about at one point leveling like the front part of it and leaving the back part of it for cold storage. So I think there's a whole plethora of things that could be done out there. I'm going to have Scott just address the building itself a little bit. He walked through it with a builder or was an engineer or There's a backup right next to you. Oh, wait.
It's, it should be good. Oh, you're through here. Try that.
Try that.
It actually
Better?
shut off now.
No?
Hello?
That
There,
works.
I'll just use this one. So probably about a year ago, Absolute, who built, the contractor who built this building and that building, maybe a year and a half ago, we walked through it. Just give me your assessment, walk through, see what your damage is, assess from the whole thing. Their assessment, basically the bones are good. You need to do some things like roof needs to get repaired, make some improvements to the under drain, grade the building a little bit out of it, away from the building so that when you have drainage, you want it to go away. You might have to do a pond or something, but we have the land to do it, and maybe take your under drains a little bit further away. Because we were just asking, like, if we had to cut it off, what's the best place to cut it off for the power? So since that time, just to let you know, I mean, DPW did some work out there. They pretty much have cut a couple dead trees out there. They threw a lot of mulch in it, and they kind of graded it away from the building. They connected all the downspouts and kind of even put some more black kind of tubing to get the downspouts away. This past summer, we used the building a couple times for the rec program when we needed to use it with regards to the rec program when the kids needed a place because of the rain. So pretty much, is the building got good bones? Yup. Does it need work? Correct. So that's just how it is. From my standpoint, a building that's sitting there always causes more problems. So if a decision needs to be made, rather make it quickly, because I don't want to just keep maintaining. Buildings begin to have problems when they're left empty. So just to kind of give you an idea, this was just some of the programming that we asked. You can just actually just pass one down. It just front and back, it was just like programming ideas that the RUC program wanted to do. So they just went out there and they just said, hey, this is the whole long list of things for just a cost estimate. I even have Absolute, they just gave me a really rough idea just based off of these ideas, okay? So there's nothing else more. You can, it's one sheet and then just pass it on. And again, this is very, very, very rough cost estimates, just to let you guys know. It's just kind of like getting an idea because this is how we generate capital. If I come to you, you want a number, why it's this much money. So again, this is not with any programming related to any other outside group besides just the rec program. So
Did you had some numbers or?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just one sheet, pass it on, sorry. Yeah. So, but, any questions?
Well, I, for one, like the campus setting. I think it's ideal. It's a building. If it's structurally good, we can always fix it. To me, there's all kinds of funds out there. I mean, we've got FRF funds that I think we're going to dedicate to sewer system, I think. There's also the new bulk of funds that were recently approved by the White House. I don't know if those can apply. I don't know if MMSD money, now that we backed out of their program, can apply to that. So there is some funding available, I think.
We're looking into Bounce Back Badger. That's another ARP fund through the state. We're looking at a lot of funding for a lot of different places. So, but this is just, what I just gave you guys is just a concept idea of what our programming was kind of an idea of.
So my hope today was to at least get some feedback from the council as a whole of, I mean, if the last discussion really had it as limited cold storage and eliminating part of the building. I think that was, I wasn't here, but I think that's where you guys ended up at that one. But it wasn't, it was kind of like, well, maybe that's what we'll do. If you're stuck on that, then that kind of gives me some direction. If you want to look at what possibilities are, there's enough community interest in this. What I'd like to do is set and put together like an ad hoc citizens committee. If one of you aldermen want to sit on it, that'd be good. Kind of come through of what we could do out there, look at maybe different funding sources, maybe report back in about 6 months to the council on, kind of maybe a dream or a wish list of what we could do for that. We would have some numbers. We could talk about, funding sources at that point. Like I said, the Lions Club has approached me a number of times where they're interested in getting involved in either fundraising or for part of that building. I'm not sure if they want like a Lions room or something like that that would be named after them. I have no idea what scope it is on all that, but I think some of these questions could all be answered. I just didn't want to go through the effort of doing all that if you guys are kind of have something stuck in your mind, or I don't have a majority of council, at least looking forward as that building being an asset versus a liability. My thoughts are that the building was not good for a police department anymore and no longer served our needs. I think building a new police department was the right thing. However, I don't think the building itself as a building is quite as bad as it was described. Let's just put it that way. Not calling anyone a liar or anything else. I just think, it was possibly oversold onto the condition of it being a building. Regardless if that building could have been in pristine condition, I think it had enough parts that didn't serve our police needs that what we did for the police department was the right thing for the community. Not questioning that.
Well, I think the basement was a big issue in there, and I didn't hear that addressed here today with your walkthroughs.
And Scott did a little bit with we more than likely are going to have to do something with drain tile or.
Yeah, we're going to have to probably replace the under drain tile around the whole side. Yeah.
But
will it be usable space then? That's the question.
If it's not usable space, my suggestion would be to fill the basement. So
Right.
Either way, you either can use it as foundation or you can use it as space.
I mean, that's for further down the road, but
yeah, I think
that's
so.
that was a big question with the basement. If I remember correctly, it had water in there at times, right?
It had mold and water, and that one corner is what you can tell by going and looking at the brick. And maybe that's something if you guys want to do sometime, we can all walk through it together.
No, we did that beforehand. That's
right.
when we decided to combine these two because we were looking to build the police department in a separate place.
So you're aware of that one wall that had like all the paint coming off of it and all that. That's where the water was leaking in. Scott's made the indication that, even just a little bit we've done has improved on that.
Yeah, we haven't had any rain, dry year, but again, little things is, okay, if the under drain is not functioning, replace the under drain, go around the building. There's nothing wrong with pouring concrete sidewalk around the whole building to slope it away so that you basically, when any type of rainwater hits, it shoots away from the building. These are little techniques that you can do. Take your under drain, take your roof all the way and throw it, drive it away as far as you can. If you really look at the building when you walk around it, it's kind of in a little hole. Those are just basic grading things that you can kind of look at.
Sure.
But my house got the under drain replaced a couple of years ago. It happens. But when the Absolute went through there, they didn't see any structural issues. They didn't, I mean, you'd get that mold on the wall when you have your drainage, but.
So I recall when we talked about this last, we had a lot of issues with Park and Rec not having space. And I thought that's what we were leaning towards with that building, if it was savable. We just didn't know at the time if that would happen. Are you talking about maybe splitting it between Park and Rec and somebody else?
I think getting a group together and looking at the possibilities, because even if it's used for we design it for Park and Rec programming, that does, their biggest use would be a multiple purpose rooms. So we have a lot of small rooms in that building, maybe to make some larger rooms that they can use for different types of programming, which could also double as community rooms. We could have a senior room and things like that that they would have access to as well. Somebody came in a couple of weeks ago and they want to start a free health clinic in Muskego. I mean, there's all these possibilities of things we can do. The garage itself would be ideal to convert that garage into a younger kids gymnasium. It's because we have tons of kids that use our Park and Rec programming. We can get into the school's gyms, but the little kids, they can't get in till later, like 8 o'clock. Well, the real little ones, that's bedtime, so that might be ideal for that. I mean, there's just all these possibilities. And, then we also have the reality of cost on things that we have to be mindful on. So I think, having a group that's looking specifically at this and then putting together something and getting some numbers would be the best thing to start with. And I would encourage to have at least, I would like to have like 2 aldermen on it. Alderman Engelhardt.
All the years I've lived here, there's been talk up and down about, could develop a civic building or a community use building. And I think the time is very good for us to be looking at the idea of building that balance between community, and since the city owns this, the city would still have a major stake in it, but there's other stakeholders in the community that could help us to fund it and so forth. If we can build that energy in that direction, I think would be one of the best things we could ever do with that building. And then it would be available for what I would fear about it is, there was talk, when they did the Performing Arts Center down in the high school, the rental of that was very high at first. I don't know what they've done with it since, but they said, I would not want us to see pricing it out of reach for people that would want to use it if it was a civic building. But, if we all work together as a city and community, I think there's plenty of potential there, and starting with some kind of study team would be probably the best way to go. So that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I look at this at 3.2 and then another 250,000 just to what's on this list here, and that's in millions. That's a lot of money to have rec programs in. I mean, realistically, I'm just looking at the numbers going, for $15 or $75 or $150 per whatever, that's a lot of classes to pick up. So, like you said, the reality is the cost. I don't know what we would do with that building. I mean, for 3.1 million, I don't know what it would cost to just put a square structure up there and do what we want with it. I don't know. That could be a possibility to tear it down and put like a pole barn type building up that we can have for bigger rooms that actually could be like a hotel convention room where you can divide the rooms and things like that in. But I think at 3 point whatever, even if it's down to this other 2.6 million, that's something we're going to have to have a lot of input from the community into to go in this direction. I know that when they wanted a community center in here or a health club in here or whatever it was back when, it was a big controversy and it didn't go anywhere. So, and I think it was the cost and how close we are to other facilities in other communities. But, since then we've grown to a bigger community, so there might be more positive input on this. I don't know.
Well, and that's why I think it's important to have a ad hoc committee that has the community represented into it because, we all represent the community in different aspects, but bottom line is we're not the community necessarily. So having a mechanism where that people are really, have an interest in this can give their input and help mold and shape it, I think makes a lot more sense.
Well, and then we do have community people, like you said, the Lions Club, the Women's Club, who want the building, and I believe one of them wants all of it, and I don't know if they can raise enough money to do it, but that was my thinking. If we could salvage some of it and build off new one, or just tear it down and put a whole new structure in, we might be able to satisfy the Women's Club and the Lions Club and the Park and Rec Department, and it might defer some of the costs. So there's a lot of possibilities here rather than just looking at the existing building.
Oh, I agree. I think the first is to find out what the community needs are for space, and then seeing if those needs can be fit into that building itself. And if they can't, well, maybe we either change the needs or change the approach to how we fill those needs.
Well, the other question I have is, it's on a park, and we have nothing really mentioned, other than classes, we're talking about Park and Rec, but we're not really including the other park, which has the main festival every year. I don't know how we would go about including that, or taking a look at that to
and I'm
get some kind of, I have my own ideas, I can throw them out there, but.
We've talked about
We've talked to some ideas of, off the back there, which is kind of a popular idea, is kind of having like the garage doors that you see in the bars that open up, and then you have a kitchen inside there, and you can serve all your beer and liquor inside, and you can free up a lot more space, and then any place can rent that up, and you just open the garage door, and you see it done in a couple more parks. That would definitely, I would think, benefit the festival in a lot of ways.
And
where
open
it's
up
like
that area into the park area. Right now, it's kind of
trees or something in there now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You just open up the back door, you put a couple garage doors, it's a countertop, everything's inside.
See, that goes into my theory again. Do we really want to salvage this building? That's something that I think needs to be really investigated before we put $3 million other than the public input.
Realize,
but yeah.
Before you get hung up on these numbers, for one.
Yeah, I know. I'm just using this.
They were completely off. They were like, the guy walked through and just kind of like, yeah, boom. He didn't like put pen to paper and come up with it.
It's going to be expensive though.
Well, it's going to be. And a new building, I don't think you could put a new building up to city standards at $3 million by any means. But
On the other hand, the demise of that building would be very expensive for us too.
yeah, there's a cost. There's a cost.
No
to
return
demo.
on that,
Right.
really.
So I guess before we get too far into the weeds on this whole thing, do I have a consensus or at least an unanimous agreement that let's have a committee that looks at it and report back, and then we can get more into the details and the weeds later on.
Well, we don't want this to turn into a Parkland Mall, right? Where people in 20 years will be asking, why is that building still sitting there? So
That's why it's in front of you tonight.
other than money involved, there should be, we should move forward. But, I'd like to see it get more involved with the park and we have the beer gardens and things like that. One of my views would be to look at a permanent stage in that area so that we can do things throughout the year other than just the festival. Because I don't know much about that
karaoke
stage.
or
Bands with the beer, you can have somebody sponsor it. You could have one of the local establishments sponsor that and have a band out there, and they could be the beer people. And there's a lot of things we can do once we start to get into this. But I think, we should look at a lot of alternatives to do it right rather than just to do it.
No, I agree. And, Alderman Kabaki had just mentioned that earlier when we started the conversation of the whole campus idea of tying everything together, tying the park and, all our buildings. And, I think there's definitely some good possibilities that we could do for doing all that if we plan it well. All right, we're on that page. If I would like to put 2 aldermen on this, so if any of you have interest in that, just shoot me an email. Obviously, we will have to pick 2 of you, but if there's only 2 of you, we'll both get on. If there's 6 of you, we'll figure it out. But you can always show up at all the meetings and give your input anyway. So I think that's it, unless anybody else has anything to add on that. Nope. All right. Any other communications for the committee all? Motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 5:55.